Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is your host Yoshino, and you are listening to Artist Decoded. My guest today is Shavonne Wong, who spent over 10 plus years as a fashion photographer, shooting for clients such as Sephora, Nike, HBO, and Vogue. She was also featured in Forbes Asia's 30 Under 30 list. And during the beginning stages of the pandemic in early 2020, she started to learn how to create 3D models in Blender. She spent countless hours researching and looking into tutorials. We talk about this journey of learning a new craft in this episode, but we also talk about how she turned those 3D models into a profit by turning them into NFTs. We talk about her journey into the NFT world as well. And if you'd like to go check her work out, you can find her work on the platforms SuperRare, Foundation, and OpenSea. But I really enjoyed Shavonne's nonchalantness. Has a very funny personality, and I just had a great conversation with her. So I hope you all really like this conversation. But before we begin, please go to our iTunes page, leave a 5-star review. Just click that 5-star review. It will make my day. It'll brighten up my day a little bit. And I like having good days. What can I say? So here it is. Without further ado, my conversation with Shavonne Wong. Hope you enjoy it. Well, yeah, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you for taking this time. I know it's a little past 1 a.m. and I was wondering if you ever sleep.
I do sleep. I sleep till 12:30 p.m. That's when I wake up. So I still get my 8 hours, just at weird timings.
Have you always been a night owl?
Always, my whole life. Like, I've always struggled waking up early, and people will be like, "Good morning," like, "What a nice day." I'm like, "It's too early. The niceness hasn't started yet. I don't know why you're so happy." But like at night I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not no scientist or anything, but I think that some people, it just are more nocturnal than other people. And it's just a lot easier for people to operate like into the wee hours of the morning, if you will.
Maybe it's like from the hunter-gatherers period where somebody stay awake to look out for, I don't know, animals coming to eat them or something.
What would you be? What do you think your position would be in the hunter-gatherer? As a hunter-gatherer?
Probably not the hunter. That seems hard.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, anyways, going into it, I wanted to ask you about your experience as a fashion photographer, because I know that, and do you still identify as a fashion photographer sometimes?
Actually, not really. Like if someone asks me what I'm doing now, I actually say I do NFTs instead. Because I haven't really done fashion photography much the past 2 years, because of COVID, right? Half of my jobs disappeared, and the other half, the budgets for companies all shrank into nothingness. So I haven't really been doing it enough to actually now call it a career. It's a bit odd, I guess.
So I know that you've been a fashion photographer, or you had a fashion photography career for like 11 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, now 12 years, but the last 2 years don't really count, right?
Yeah. Well, 12, yeah. So we'll go with 12 years. But yeah, no, I guess I was curious what your perspective was about that industry and some of your experiences within it.
Well, I had a lot of fun. It's a really superficial industry, but it's a fun one. In fashion, I feel like the biggest appeal is we create dreams. We create fantasies. We are not really rooted in reality as much. We kind of just play with what could be possible and what is beautiful. So I think that is the appeal that attracts a lot of people into the industry. But for a very an industry that prides itself to be very trend setting, right? To be very new age, to be always modern. I found that technologically, the way the fashion industry has been for the past years has been basically the same. Like the way runways are done, the way clothes are made, it's just I felt like given the exponential increase in innovation through technology in the past decade, it has not shown as much in the fashion industry, which is, a little strange. But I mean, other than that, like being in the fashion industry for 10 years have been so much fun for me. I was very happy that I got to do something that was creative and something I enjoyed. It was a blessing. But yeah, I think it's not
Mhm.
for me as much as it was now.
Do you think it's not as much for you now as it was because of budgetary concerns and making money as a fashion photographer? Or do you think it's more so about certain moral implications that you might have with the fashion industry, like you said, portraying a sense of fantasy and reality, and how that could be, how that sort of perspective can be damaging to some people?
I think for me, it's not really that I think I've always been very upfront with myself that like I am not changing when I'm doing fashion photography. I am not changing the world. I am not making a huge impact in the world. I'm just really okay. I'm here. I'm creating beautiful photos and people like it. I like it. We're happy. But I think why it's not as interesting to me anymore right now is just because after I got into NFTs, I got into 3D. There's just so much more exploration, experimenting that I would not have been able to do with photography, and it's suddenly something very new and exciting again. I mean, like I've done photography, fashion photography, right, for about 10 years now. So like there has been plateaus and there's been up and downs, but like um, like I had my experience. I've learned
Mhm.
the things I wanted to learn, and I'm sure, of course, there is more to learn. But I felt like I've reached a good amount of knowledge with it. But when I'm doing 3D now, and NFT is just such a new thing. It's such a new industry. It's such a new technology in 3D. It's just I am still. It's only what my second. Well, no, what I've only done it for 1.5 years right now, so I'm still so brand new to it, and there's just so much to learn and so much to experiment. It's just so fun. Yeah. And when you talk about budgetary, it's funny because the fashion industries always seem to be so glamorous, but the budget's always shit. So to be
Yeah.
honest, like with NFTs, I'm doing better than I would have been in photography, even with 10 years of experience. So there's that. I like money. Nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, we all, have to survive, and in a capitalistic society, the way that you make money, I mean, you would like to, I mean, I can't speak for I can't speak for you, but like theoretically speaking, like everyone wants to make money, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
hopefully as artists, you can make money doing the thing that you like to do, right?
Of course, right. But I feel like there's always been this starving artist ideal, and it's always been seemed to be very romantic and all, right? This like view of like, oh, the artist struggles, and then they put their struggle on the canvas, and the canvas is now beautiful because we all relate to the struggle. But like it's so like so poor artists just struggling forever. Like I like stuff. I like having a nice bed. I like having good food. Like why can't I enjoy the good things of life too? I like money. Like I feel like it's people make it seem as though like artists aren't allowed to make money because it ruins the art. But like that seems a little mean. Like
Yeah.
we live in the same world they do. Why can't we
Yeah.
enjoy the same things they do? So for me,
Mm.
I've always been very upfront that like fuck it, I like money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's totally fine to, I mean, just because you like money doesn't necessarily mean that you have to associate it with a certain moral judgment. Like you are a capitalist because you like money. It's just that this system that's put into place, and this is what you need to do to essentially survive, right? But
And like I mean like all these artist gears are so expensive too, right? So like we need to be able to buy them to do our art. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. Did you ever romanticize that struggling artist lifestyle?
Uh, well, I mean, it's hard, especially as an Asian, right? Because your parents warn you away from that lifestyle. They're like, no, no, that's not the life you want. Don't go towards there. And you're like, oh, okay, that's not the life I want. I must then, in order to do art in a way that is, not that, then I have to make sure I can make money too. Because I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not going in a direction where I don't make art because that's not the life I want. Also, I would be terrible at, I don't know, accounting or something. So I don't really, I
Hmm.
do art because I don't have a choice. So
Hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I've never wanted a struggling artist life, mainly because I don't want to struggle. I mean, we all have life struggles. Life is hard. Like we don't need to make it worse, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. So, like, when you were in college and when you were growing up, were your parents trying to sway you to move into a more, I guess, for lack of a better term, traditional life path in terms of, um, I mean, there's a lot of like Asian, speaking from also being Asian. I mean, I'm Asian American, but just having that sort of, I mean, I can understand, and it's really interesting because I like to kind of like dissect this a little bit with you a bit because
Mhm.
I find that with first generation, at least from my experience with first generation Asian Americans, that idea of the more traditional survivalist mentality is more embedded within the parenting structure and is
Mm-mm.
more in place with in terms of like their parents are trying to have them be doctors and dentists and attorneys or things that are you're going to have a higher chance of success in terms of being able to survive as opposed to something that's more creative. But in the end, it's really the creative things like being a painter or a photographer or these sort of more uncertain life paths. That's more of a systemic issue with governmental things and basically how our society treats the importance of art. And that's been happening for centuries and centuries, right? I mean, I think now we're living in a day and age where it's easier to support yourself as an artist, right? There's definitely ways that you could do it, right? But it's still really hard. So I guess what I'm trying to explore here is the idea of your parents wanting to have you go down a path of a more traditional career.
Mm. Well, I mean, I think I was very lucky because actually my parents were very open to me being doing going down a creative path. But I don't think it came as a surprise to them either because I've been creative my whole life. But I mean, I feel like a lot of this older traditional thinking, it's if I really think about it, I always think that they are rooted from a place of love. Basically, I think as parents or an older generation, you don't want the new generation to suffer. You don't want your kids to suffer, right? So you see the people who are not making it so called in their timeline, right? They're like, oh, don't do that. People just you will suffer, and I think as parents, you just don't want that for your children. But I also feel like it's also not there's also the lack of awareness of the timeline we live in, which is now this technology. We are not farmers anymore. We are not like gathering our food in the wild, and it's no longer a survival to a struggle to survive, right? Like so
Mhm.
we have the luxury to enjoy art. We have the luxury to talk philosophy. We have this luxury to expand as human beings. That's more than just survival. But it's not something you just get used to, right? I feel like they were born in a generation where it was still like even Singapore is just like, oh, like the country is so new. My country is only like 50 something years old, so like it's a baby, right? My mom's older than my country. And it's just like,
Hmm.
oh, new country, we gotta build it, we gotta build it, we gotta build it. Like artists are not really essential, which is actually what they literally said in the newspapers when COVID first happened. They're like, non-essential jobs, artists. He's like, oh, really? Thanks. But like,
Wait, what
so like,
what what new what newspapers? I'm curious about this.
it's a Singapore newspaper. Like I think it appeared on our Straits Time. Yeah, and and it spread like wildfire because like I saw it on Facebook. People were just posting about it from all over the world. But yeah, like Singapore literally said, non-essential jobs, artists. And people were pissed off, right? But I understood, because like in the span of a pandemic, like when that is happening, my pretty pictures isn't saving lives. So I kind of get it. Like, sure, life is wonderful with art. Life is beautiful and made better with music and Netflix and all these wonderful things. But like when it comes to saving lives, we are probably not saving a life. So I get it. But yeah, so I feel like I am very grateful to be born in this generation right now, where art is something that I think more people can appreciate, because we are no longer in that just survival mode. We are more at a stage of like, humans are just expanding on what we think, what we love. We talk about music, we talk about art, and we get to enjoy all this, kind of like luxuries, right? So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Where did your parents immigrate from?
Oh, my mom's Singaporean. She was here when Singapore became Singapore. And my dad's from Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, well, obviously I wanted to go into your NFT stuff. But so I guess after COVID, well, I guess not after COVID, like during COVID, in April of 2020, I know that you started learning 3D modeling through Blender. Is that correct? That timeline?
Yes, that is correct.
I mean, I've heard on interviews where you're saying like or actually we talked about this, and you were talking about how you were playing, you were kind of depressed and you were playing video games for a bit, or you just trying to figure it out, right? And then
Yeah.
what was the mental shift to where you wanted to start 3D modeling? Because I also know that in college you experimented a little bit with 3D modeling, but what was the thing that you're like, this is the thing that I want to do?
Yeah, so when COVID first happened, I played Assassin's Creed every single day for way more hours than I really should, for a good
Yeah.
period of time. and
Yeah.
and and I think what clicked for me was the more news I read, the more I started to see about how COVID is really affecting the world. Right, the more I started to realize like, fuck, this is not going away anytime soon. And I was like, okay, like my job literally requires me to go on set to be around human beings and take photos that are also not essential. Like, really, like this is my career. Like, and I thought to myself, like, I'm still young. Like, this is not the end, right? Like, okay, let's
Mhm.
let's 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 do something, right? Like, um let's pivot. So I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what does it mean to pivot? Um and I think I was like reading some article about virtual influencers, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I can do that. And then I got obsessed, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. So I was like, okay, let's just download Blender, and see what happens, because Blender is free. Yeah,
Mhm.
so literally I started Blender, and my one and only goal was like, I am gonna be able to create a somewhat realistic virtual human soon. And that soon took a really long time, but it happens. So yeah, that was all I did for every single day. Wake up, I eat, I go to the computer, I do this, I watch tutorials. I watch way more tutorials than I ever thought I would in my life. And, but it was fun, like it was very frustrating. Oh my god, but it was also fun,
Yeah.
because in the end it was still creative, and I enjoyed it. So yeah.
What what was this, if you can remember, what was this article that you read about virtual influencers, and why was that so appealing to you?
Well, I think I was already aware that there were virtual influencers in the world, and I remember that there was also people who are like doing like, oh, 3D outfits, and then I remember thinking like, oh, here I am playing Assassin's Creed, but like, like I need to be a bit more productive in my life. And 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 I think I was just lying in bed, like thinking like, oh, the God, what am I gonna do with my life if I don't want to do fashion photography? And I think it just spiraled after like many thoughts, that like I ended up in like 3D humans. I experienced 3D. I enjoyed 3D. Let's go there. So yeah, that was it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. And I want to explore this with you a bit, like the idea of virtual influencers. I mean, when I think about virtual influencers and the implication of the influencer on real human beings, right? Because
Mm.
there's, I think Elon Musk like popularized this idea that virtual or like the virtual world of the metaverse will be, and graphics will be indistinguishable from reality. How that idea affects real people, and also just thinking about fashion photography and fashion, how fashion can change the way that people think about themselves, the perception of that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'll touch a bit more on the virtual influencers point first. I want to say that like I'm creating virtual humans, but like my goal has never been to make virtual influencers. Mainly, firstly, because I do find the idea of virtual influencers a little icky. uh,
Mm-hmm.
like like the world got filled up with influencers in the recent decade, and
Yeah.
some people find them annoying. I'm like, whatever, cool, they get paid, they do their thing, no big deal. But to me, when you're an influencer, whatever you say, if you say some shit, you get backlash, right? You get canceled. There's accountability, like people know who you are because you kind of have to put your face there as an influencer. But when it comes to virtual influencers, you have all these characters where they are saying stuff, but the create like they're not actually saying anything, right? The creator behind them is the one saying it, and sometimes this creator isn't put out there. It's not clear who the creator is, right? So this virtual influencer just goes around getting a bunch of followers and just says all these things that it's just not real. And I think one thing we've learned through COVID is that people are very easily influenced, which is like not the
Mm.
best thing ever, right? When you're getting influenced by a source that like you don't even know who's behind it. And I think especially kids nowadays, they're just like following all these virtual influencers, and if influencers like, oh, I'm vegan, you're like, no, no, you're not. You're a thing, and they're like, I'm vegan, and I buy my food from this place, and you're just like, no, not really. You don't. But like people are easily influenced, and you're just like, oh, okay, this can get messy very quickly, right? Because I remember seeing this US virtual influencer with political point of views. And I'm just like, okay, you're basically an anonymous source, just giving up political point of views, but you're getting influence over the fact that people think you're real, but you're not real. And I find that very iffy, that there's just no real accountability. They can say whatever shit they want, and no one really gets in trouble. And I
Hmm.
just think that is weird because, like, KFC, they did a virtual influencer thing, and I thought that was fine because, right, if that influencer says anything, KFC gets the shit for it. But like all these virtual influencers with
Did
like
you
their
say
creators,
KFC?
yeah,
KFC?
KFC, yeah, KFC,
What
Kentucky
what what
Fried
is the what
Chicken.
is this what is this story about? I'm curious about that.
Uh, no, I think they were just doing some new brand campaign thing, and they wanted to try something new and modern and trendy. So they got a virtual influencer made that looked like a younger Colonel, whatever his name is, Sanders, Colonel
Colonel
Sanders. Yeah,
Sanders,
yeah.
yeah.
So he had abs and all. It was kind of
What?
funny. I enjoyed it. It was cute. I was like, oh,
Wait,
like that's interesting.
is this something that was a commercial in Asia, or because
No, it
I'm
was
not
on
sure
it
if I
was
saw.
on Instagram.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So like
Yeah.
I thought that was cool, and I thought that was an interesting way of getting into like new tech and all. And for me, I didn't mind it because like whatever this character says, like there is accountability, right? The accountability fully falls on KFC's shoulders. So yeah, I find with virtual influencers is the question of accountability. Who is behind this thing and who is saying this thing, and if this thing says something with that is people don't agree with, like is there accountability behind it. So yeah.
Hmm. I understand the train of thought there, but just going back to that Elon Musk thing about the, you know, for instance, these virtual influencers that can potentially, their identities could be seen as reality, essentially. I mean, I know that we're not there, and it's kind of like this futuristic exploration of this idea, but just the idea of influencers in general, I think, is really interesting in the sense where there's so many of these people that are influencers, and so many people want to be influencers, right? And I think a big portion of that comes down to just basic human psychology of where there's people that want to be heard, and people can be heard on a, you know, on a essentially like pulling yourself up from the bootstraps, and you know, going on YouTube and making videos and giving your opinion about certain things, whether it's makeup tutorials or whatever it could be, right?
Yeah.
And so there's the accessibility to become influencers. But then I think in terms of, like, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. But I think in the sense of how in the Bible it talks about be careful of false prophets, or you know, don't take up false idols, right? And how those false prophets and idols have turned into celebrity, and how prior to social media, a lot of the people that would be considered quote unquote influencers are celebrities, right?
Yeah.
But then how that celebrity status is more accessible to like a regular person. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people a generation younger than us that they want to be YouTube stars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it just, the human psychology stays the same, but the accessibility to that shifts over time. And I'm just curious how that's going to change with virtual influencers, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure you don't know the answer. Like, who knows the answer, right? I mean, unless you have a time machine and, you know, you can go into the future and figure this out. But it's interesting to think about, don't you think?
Oh, I mean, like, I think it'll be exactly the same as celebrities are. I feel like, you know, it's human social behavior to be attracted to someone who seems the most popular, right? So like, it's like, you know, in the NFT scene, the crypto scene, the decentralized, the DAOs, they're always talking about, oh, you know, like, you spread out the power and everything, but like, it's not really true. Like,
Yeah.
people just follow whoever is popular, and I feel like you can never get rid of that social behavior. Like in a DAO, if someone has the most money, they probably have the most say. They can come up with a proposal, and because they have the most followers or charm, more people will just vote for them. So like you would never be able to get rid of that social human behavior, right? Yes,
Yeah.
but I feel like people just generally always put others on pedestals, whether it's the celebrities, whether it's in the NFT scene, the collectors. You know, we put people on pedestals because we think they have made it in life. But I think it's also realizing that everybody's just human, right? Like, everybody sleeps, everybody eats, everybody shits. Like, everybody's just another human being who goes home and their kids cry at them, and they're just another person. You know, they're no longer this Mr. Big Deal. And I think remembering that helps, you know, at least it helps me talk to people who are supposedly very successful and very popular. Because I mean, I still get intimidated, right? I'm also human, but like, for me, it's just like, oh, right, you also shit, I also shit, so we're the same, sort of.
You should just start every conversation off like that when you're intimidated by someone.
I shat today, did you? You know, you're like, yeah. So like, cool, we're starting off the
Cool.
same ground now.
Yeah. You're a monkey. I'm a monkey. All right, we're monkeys.
Cool. So,
Yeah.
but like, I feel like it's something people forget, right? That like, they're like, oh, this person, they've made it in life. They probably shit on a golden toilet bowl or something. So no, they probably shit on a porcelain toilet bowl just like you. So like, they're also human.
Yeah. I spray painted mine gold, so you know, it's the illusion of the gold, but it's not the actual gold. You know. The other
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
toilet I have is a Gold Flakes, which I have to
Gold
reflake
flakes. Wow, wow,
every time.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. That's real fancy. Really fancy. It's just for your butt cheeks, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a comfortability thing than anything, and a vanity
Nice.
thing, So,
Nice, nice. No, but
but
like
anyway,
you were talking about the virtual influencers, right? Like, so I think it's very similar to celebrities. Behind this virtual influence are this team of people making sure they look good, making sure they're doing all these things and building this brand. And it's the same as celebrities. Behind these celebrities is a team of people making sure they look good, making sure they're building a brand. So like I feel like in the future, the way people will see virtual influencers will be exactly the way they see celebrities now. They'll be like, they look good. Why shouldn't I look good? I want to look as good as them, even though I don't have a team behind me. And
hmm,
that's the way of life.
hmm. Yeah, it's really fascinating. Like, so let's go back a little bit, back just to NFTs real quick. So I want to understand how NFTs have changed your life and where you see that movement going into the future.
Mm. Well, how NFTs have changed my life. Firstly, I've made more money than a couple of years in photography, so that's great. And
That is great.
like
I'm happy for you.
thank you. And like I'm just at a different place right now, right? Where I recently did a piece that was for donation for a charity, right? So I basically donated like the person bidded 5 ETH, so I donated 5 ETH, which is like it would be absolutely impossible before NFTs in my life. I'll be, like I live a life of donating like, oh, $10, $50, like what do I have in my wallet? Here, take it, like it was never like a lot. And like I could never like, they always like, oh, the little bit you give it adds up to make the difference, right? But like, let's be honest, I wasn't making that big a difference in their lives. But like shit.
Oh, you mean when
Now,
you would donate? You mean when you would donate to certain things before, when it would just
yeah.
be like marginal amounts of money? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
exactly. Yeah, like cause I
Mm.
I only had marginal amounts of money on my end,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
so like I could only then give marginal amounts, and yeah, but like the fact that I was just able to donate 5 ETH, it's insane to me. Like, okay, I
Mm.
if I'm completely honest, they'll be like, oh, you should give until it hurts, and this one it hurt a bit. Like I was like, oh, that's a lot of money leaving me, but the fact that I was even able to do it is incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what was the piece and what was the organization that you gave to? And how did that work with, like, did you have to convert Ethereum to US dollars or to a different currency, or did you just give it specifically with that cryptocurrency?
So there's this donation thingy. I'm just gonna say thingy because I'm not very good with the technicalities. So this thingy called so Stanto, they approached me. So like they approached me because I was one of the people who was very very lucky to receive one of the Twitter NFTs, and we have a group chat, and they were saying like, oh, we're gonna try and push the Twitter NFTs to Sotheby's, right? So they're like, okay, this is going to happen. And during this time, any of you who want to do a piece that would be for charity, it'll be in connection with Sustento and Sotheby's. I was like, Sotheby's, fuck yeah. And okay, cool, charity. Yeah, okay. And so I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so Sustento told me, right, basically their charity was focused on healthcare workers. Basically, healthcare worker had quite a terrible past 2 years of just working all the time
Yeah.
and not being appreciated at all.
Mm.
So they were saying like, okay, the theme is called the gift. And I remember thinking to myself like, oh my god, this is gonna be so cheesy. How am I gonna do something that is not cheesy? Charity work and theme work is always so hard to not be cheesy and in your face. So I thought really, really, really hard. And recently I did a collection called Love is Love, where people kissing, and it was wonderful and nice and intimate, and I loved it. But I was thinking like, oh, I could do something along that vein, because like if you really think about the gift, and you think about COVID and healthcare workers, because of COVID, there was such a long period of time where we were suddenly shocked with the this ability of meeting our friends and people we love, right? Suddenly we're just not able to meet our loved ones, and we were no longer able to give them, physical touch, physical hugs, intimacy, and it was such a sudden shock to most of us, right? And it was really, to me, because of this healthcare workers and all this hours and hours and of labor they've put in, that this reality was finally given back to us, and to me, the ability to now be around family, to be able to touch them, to be able to hug them, right, is a gift. So I did a piece where it's basically just two people hugging, and I'm gonna be terrible at describing it because I'm like, it's just really pretty. You should just see it on my Twitter, so it's there.
Well, we'll get that from you, and then we can put it in the show notes here on our website.
Sounds good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go there. It's two people hugging, and it's really pretty.
Exactly. But yeah.
No,
So
I've seen your artwork of the two people coming together and kissing, and was the one that you're talking about specifically where they're floating, so it feels very ethereal.
yes, the one they're floating. It's really pretty, right? And it's two people hugging.
Yeah. They kind of feel angelic in a way, right?
Yeah,
And they're wrapped around with this beautiful light and this ethereal nature that separates man and woman from reality and transports them into this spiritual space of existential excitement. I don't know.
You should describe my work for me. It's way better than it's pretty.
No, I've seen that piece, but we'll put it in the show notes, definitely. So
thanks. So continuing on that, right? Basically, so it was, I told Sostento that okay, I'll give 100% to charity, and a couple of weeks after that, or is it days? A period of time, I messaged them. I was like, actually, can I give like 50% to like charity in Singapore instead too? Because I'm Singaporean. Like, it's kind of weird that I'm not giving back to my own backyard first. And they're like, oh yeah, of course, sure. So in the end, it went 50% to Sostento, and then 50% to a local charity. So the 50% to Sostento, I went through the giving block, which is apparently this crypto donation thingy. And it was very easy because I just sent 2.125 ETH and just it went there. Also, after 15% from Super Red, that is. And then I was like, okay, I want to donate to my charity. And of course, they did not accept crypto. So I had to I had to like think about it, like what I was going to do. Do I want to change to SGT and then like an SGT and then withdraw it and then send it in cash? I was like, maybe I'll just take the money from my own account, my own Singapore bank account, because like both ways they're my money, right? Yeah, so I can keep my ETH in ETH and I'll just take the cash that I have. So I tried to transfer it through bank transfer and it failed. And I tried another time and it failed. And I called the bank and they were like, oh yeah, bank limits. You might have to do it over 3 days. So I transferred my donation over 3 days.
Oh wow! Yeah. Wow. Well, that's really awesome, though. Yeah, it's really awesome that you did that. But so like on the second part of that conversation, so where do you see NFTs? Like, how do you see NFTs being used in the future?
Oh, I'm just so excited about NFTs. I feel like, like anybody who has played games, they understand the idea of NFTs, right? Because for me, when I play games, I'm the person who just mods my character. Like I would play Borderlands and on my gun I'll be like, I'll add this stupid keychain. It does absolutely nothing to my gun because I like it. It makes me happy. And I'll give my character a pink outfit, even though that makes no tactical sense because it's a game. It doesn't matter. So I will be bright pink. It's fine. So I'm the person who does all that, right? And so like it clicked for me, like this whole digital asset thing. And I feel like in the future, when we're talking about like the metaverse, which is is obviously it's gonna take a while. I get it, but like in that future, I feel like your virtual character is just gonna be the representation of who you are, and the NFTs you have is just the representation of the character you are, the virtual character, right? So like this talks about the fashion NFTs, you have the music NFTs, you have the art NFTs you have, and I feel like we're just very like as an artist, I'm very lucky that NFTs boomed in art, because there was no real reason why it should be booming in art first. But like we're just like super fortunate that it boomed in art. And but in the future, there's just so much functionality that comes with NFTs, and I think that's really exciting. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, the way in the beginning how NFTs were translated to me was specifically about what it feels like in the sort of video game or the computer game universe. You know, I remember when I was a kid and I used to play World of Warcraft and different MMORPGs, and you get these little mods, these little armor mods, or these little boots that look cute that give you stamina and strength and all of these sort of like upgrades, right? And then so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
from that perspective, you can definitely understand what NFTs are, or like digital trading cards backed by the blockchain, essentially, right?
Mm-mm-mm.
Or so, but I think it's just I mean, yeah, there's a lot of mainstream conversations about it, but um, the space is so new still, especially the cryptocurrency space, that there's probably use cases to where we don't quite even know how uh, how we can utilize smart contracts and NFTs and all those things. It's such a very nuanced conversation.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I mean, like it's even the most basic thing as like a concert ticket, right?
Yeah,
In real life we have scalpers, and in NFTs we have flippers. It's the same thing. But like
yeah,
imagine like you bought this concert ticket because you really want to watch, and it's like it's your favorite band. So you bought the ticket, and it's an NFT. And somebody offers you like 100 ETH. Like, okay, wait, maybe you could change your life instead of seeing your favorite band. Is a conversation worth having? So like people can buy it off, NFTs like a secondary market. I think that's like is such an interesting reflection to the real world, right? Where people sell it on the, I don't know, it's not really a black market, I guess, a gray, it's on the
yeah,
market. And but like I think like like the idea of utilities is so interesting. And I think just so much just expansion of what can be done with NFTs, right? Even as an artist, I'm just like, oh wait, it's no longer I do art and I sell art. I can think of like the blockchain as a medium itself, right? So like recently I did a drop called Love is Love, which is a collection, right? And
hmm
it was 500 pieces. And I remember going into it, like I was like, okay, I like digital art. The canvas is digital, the screens, the computer, the whatever I can create. But like, how can I interact with the blockchain and use that as a canvas, use that as my medium, right? Because that's the most exciting thing to me. That this is a new medium that I never had access to. And I was like, okay, like how can I maybe interact with the minters? So instead of like people just minting and getting something random, I was like, I'm gonna let them influence the mint. So what I did was they were given variables, and from the variables that they chose, it would in the end affect how the result of the mint. And in that way, I was like, okay, I am actually using the technology and the blockchain as part of the art piece itself, and I think that's just so exciting. And I think of course, like I'm just at the front of it, I'm just touching it so little, and I feel like as I learn more about the blockchain and technology, the more I can do about it, and the more I can play with it. I mean, I envy people like Park who have like so much technological knowledge that he knows how to really put all the performance about it. I'm just like, oh my god, I'm still learning about crypto and it's hard. But like, I
yeah,
think it's exciting as an artist when it's like, sure, it's very intimidating and the learning curve is high, but the space for exploration just got bigger, and that's just so exciting. Yeah.
yeah. So okay, so I know we've been talking a lot of the positive aspects of the NFT world right now, but what are some of the things that you've experienced that are negative? And obviously, you don't have to. We can just speak in a general sense. Whether it's a community oriented thing or whatever it may be. But what are some of the things that you would like to warn people about this
Mm.
space that might be wanting to get into it?
Well, I mean, I think the space has like great community. and the people are very welcoming, and I think like majority are artists, and that helps, create such a diversity of like people from all over the world just doing their art. And one of the most exciting things, just being able to be around so many different artists who work in so many different mediums. And like, I called someone who worked on like a Marvel concept art a friend out, which is absolutely crazy. In my head, I'm just like, holy shit, what? So like, I think the community is incredible. It's very exciting. But there is this the we're all gonna make it mentality, which I don't think is real. I feel it's overly idealistic. Because not it's just not true. Like, not all of us are gonna make it. There's just so many variables that plays into the success and making it, right? That like it is just, you if you don't put in the work, and even if you do put in the work, there's still a chance you would not make it. And I feel like because there is the idea of we are all gonna make it, people have expectations that are then not met, right? And that is very disappointing, because they start to think, is it just them that is not making it? But like, I'm pretty sure there's just many people who are not making it. It's just that, Twitter is just like every other social media, is the highlight reel. Everybody talks about their success. They rarely talk about like, oh, it's just another day where nothing got bought. It's like, yeah, you could say that people wouldn't want to follow you because that's boring. But that's true. That's just more of what's actually happening. But yeah, it's just not that, as mentioned. And so I feel like people do come in with the wrong expectations, because they just see like, the information that goes to mainstream are just artists are either making it, or like NFTs are the worst thing ever and don't touch it, right? So so like, they're like, oh, if I didn't make it, then NFTs must be the worst thing ever. So yeah, I think that's a bit problematic, but it's a bit hard to solve, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's like necessarily a thing to solve. It's more, I think that's more of a thing for people to realize for themselves, right? It's just this idea of ego and entitlement, right? Like, if you put in the work, that you're going to get the result. And that's not necessarily the case, because there's so many environmental and outside factors that determine the success of people a lot of the times, right? So if you already have 10 collectors that you know and networked with, and they want to buy all your pieces, I mean, you're probably going to be, doing pretty well. I mean, depending on obviously how much you sell those pieces for. But I think it's also just, there's some artists just in general, right, that it's their time. They put in this work. The like Beeple, for instance, right, put in this work. Whether you like Beeple's work or not is like a whole nother scenario. But he's became extremely successful off of his work because, first of all, he had the audience. He had millions of followers.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, the people that were in power lifted him up and put him in that auction, right? And it's also about what his, on a political level, and also what, like, the subject matter, right? The subject matter is relevant for the time. So I don't know. I mean, I guess just for artists out there, and this is something that I ponder about too, it's, you're not in control of everything, right? And I go back to the teachings of the Stoics about this a lot, but you're not in control of everything, but you're in control of your reaction. How you react to the situation. Do you ever think about that?
Oh yeah, it makes sense. Like, life is hard. It's how you react to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So with that all being said, how has your perspective shifted about your career as an artist now that you've been able to find this NFT space?
I remember, like, previously I would never say that I'm an artist, because as a photographer in a very commercial world, like, I was never doing art, right? Like, like, when you think of art, you think of like fine art, you think of the art in the museums, you think of like, I don't know, Picasso or or like the big names. But like, when you do commercial photography, it's creative. I will always say I'm a creative, but I would have never said I was an artist. And now that I'm doing art, like, I remember I used to be like, oh, arty farty, very, like, wishy-washy, like, ooh, it's very out there, people just put their all these thoughts, and it's just like, it's very, very, sometimes some of these art pieces are just really out there, right? But like now that I am doing work that I would consider myself artist for, I'm just like, holy shit, it is a pretty scary thing because, like we will always say like, oh, we want to do our personal work, like even with photography, I was like, I want to do my personal work because my own personal voice. And we always diss the fact that like, oh, clients pay the bills, but they're not as fun. But now that I'm doing this as an artist, right, I'm just like, having clients pay the bills have been very comfortable because right now I am doing things with my own voice, completely my own voice. And when I put it out there, it's just like, I hope you guys like it because like this is kind of scary. like this is all me. Like I can't blame anybody else if you don't like it, and so I hope you like it. And it can be terrifying, like you put it out there and you just like, so likes. I hope you like it. It's scary, and I don't think I ever understood how scary it was, how vulnerable the position is to really do something that's completely your own voice and put it out there, hoping that people react well to it. And so that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good to state for people out there that have this romantic, idealistic, utopian mindset about what it means to be an artist, right? I think that's a very vulnerable thing that you just stated, that it is scary and it is very vulnerable.
And it's impossible to not take things personally because this is literally your personal voice out there. It's like how people react to it is just I think it's hard to not let it affect you.
Yeah. Do you get some negative backlash at all about your work?
Surprisingly, no. And one of the things that I was very pleased about is when I did my Love is Love, right? So like there are some of the scenes where it's more LGBTQ friendly, and I was expecting some backlash, and there was none, and I was very happy. That made me very happy.
Yeah. It's interesting how, and I have to state, obviously I'm not a psychologist, but I think it's just interesting how negative feedback can be so toxic to someone's mental state. Like there could be hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments and, all these things that of people like supporting the thing that you do, but like
remember
one
that
or
one.
two. Yeah, but it's that one negative comment. And there was I don't know if you've seen this show on Hulu, but it's called The Premise. Have you seen the show?
No, I don't have Hulu.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Well, it's written and directed by BJ Novak, who is the writer for The Office, the American version of The Office. And there's one episode in particular that talks specifically about that, the social media influencer, and there's, one person that's trolling them and there's these negative comments, and then it just gets wilder and wilder, and she's constantly consumed by this person and messages this person, and then eventually drives, I think it's alluding to that she's in California and then drives to Texas, which is like miles or kilometers and kilometers away. and so it's far, right? And but I don't know. I think it's just a funny portrayal of how that sort of negativity can infiltrate someone's mind for them to want to go out of their way to find this person.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's with negative feedback, it's just hard, right? Because it's just hard to not see it, and I feel like one thing I had to learn, especially when I was doing photography, is that with regards to feedback, it's like, who's it from? Like, firstly, do I respect this person as an artist, and does it come from a constructive space? Because like if it doesn't, and this person barely does photography, like this person's opinion should really not matter that much to me. So like I think it's like trying to put a little logic into this hugely emotional whirlpool and trying to break it down a bit and try and understand whose feedback should I really pay attention to? Because I mean, like, you throw something out the wall, the kind of feedback you get is just from everybody, right? But like, not everybody's feedback is the kind that you should listen to, even if it comes from a good place. But like, if the person just not an artist, right? It might not be actually good feedback. So I think it's a lot of trying to use logic to figure out like whose feedback do I want to pay attention to, and then working from there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Still hard though.
Yeah, of course. So I wanted to talk about this, just the importance of community. And I know that or actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that I know that you created this group, NFT Asia, on Discord. Is that correct?
So my friends and I created it. I am not the server head because responsibility cards. Yeah, so like we have another girl who Clara. She's the server head. But yeah, like my friends and I, we created this server called NFT Asia, and it's been incredible. Like we've got a community of Asian artists, and we are there for each other. And it's nice. I think I always tell people like the NFT space is basically a party, and parties are only fun if you have friends, right? If not, you'll be the awkward person at the corner just eating all the food, which has happened to me. Like, I understand. But, let's make it fun, find some friends. Yeah. So there's that.
I guess, okay, so I do have a couple more questions, but like I was thinking that I could ask you on Zoom. Are you still up for that?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. But okay. Well, cool. Well, thanks. Thanks for doing this and taking the time to be interviewed. And I know it's about 2:11 a.m. your time. Is that correct?
Still not yet my bedtime, but yes.
That's crazy. So you go to bed at 3 or 4?
3:30.
What time do you go?
3:30. At 3:30. I go to bed at 3:30 and I wake up at 12:30. So actually, I got 9 hours. It's not bad.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy because I generally wake up at like 5.
Yeah, you're exactly like my husband. So like sometimes he's just like, we're just taking shifts in the bed. Why do we need such a big bed?
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't know. Some people are just more nocturnal, like for me, it's, the habit of waking up earlier just revitalizes me, or it makes me feel like the illusion that I'm getting things done. I don't know. Like maybe like, let's explore. I want to explore that a bit. Do you feel like you get the most stuff done at night?
Yes. Especially, I think it came a lot from my schooling period where I was like, if I wake up at before school to try and finish work, I have a limited amount of time to finish it. But if I start the night before and work until it's done, I have all the time to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I woke up at this amount of time and school is in like 5 hours, I only have 5 hours or like 4 because travel or whatever to get it done. But if I do it the night before and like after 4 hours, I'm like, shit, I still need more time. I can just keep going on and going on and going on, and then like, oh, it's time for school, and I finished it. Took really long, but at least I finished it. So I always I prefer that. It's less stressful to me.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, everyone's different. I'm always curious about different people's habits. And actually, I do have one more question about your Krav Maga. So I'm a martial artist as well. And what drew you to Krav Maga? And from my understanding, you were an instructor, or you are an instructor.
Okay, I'll start a bit further back. So like when I was in school, I played squash for about 6 years, and I played competitively, and it was going great. But like I remember thinking to myself like, oh, training is up to 4 times a week, but like this is not gonna be my career. Am I really gonna continue another year? Because every year that you agree to, you kind of have to commit to stay for the whole season, right? So I was like, do I really want to keep committing this? Because I don't want to back out halfway. So like on the 6th year, I was just like, you know what? Not a career. Probably shouldn't spend so much time on this. All right, I'll quit. So I quit. And then I got a little flabby because I wasn't working out after that. I got a little like, ooh, this is soft. That's nice. Also, it didn't help that I went to work in an ice cream store, and because I was paid so little, I just ate more free ice cream to make up for it, and then I quit because I got fatter. So there was all of that playing into it.
Okay.
So I was
That's
like,
good. That's
okay.
good to state. Uh-huh.
I was like, I should find a sport, like I should find something that keeps me active. And during the time, I didn't really like the idea of gym because it seemed a bit boring and very technical. I preferred the kind that was like, it's fun. Like when I played squash, there's a competitiveness to it. There's a game to it, right? So like it takes off the like I have to run this amount of distance because I should. It was more like I have to run it so I can beat the guy. So that was fun. So like I was like, okay, let's learn something useful, something practical. So I was like, self-defense. That sounds useful. And so I had this friend who was in the military police. I was like, okay, what do you suggest I learn that is useful and practical as a female? He's like, Krav Maga. It's good. It's basically you learn how to do self-defense with no rules. And that appealed to me because, who cares about rules? Let's just kick people in the groin.
Yeah, just gouge people's eyes and kick them in the groin.
Exactly. I mean, the idea is that if you're learning self-defense, the idea is that if you're on the street getting attacked, it's not likely the attacker's going to be your size, right? Like, if you go on a ring, they will, put a weighing machine, you guys will weigh, you guys are the same weight class, and therefore you guys are fighting fairly. But on the streets, the chances of you getting attacked by someone your weight size is probably not there. It's probably someone bigger, stronger, and for me, a dude, right? And so... Well, he's breaking the rules. I should break the rules too. Fuck him, kick him in the groin. So I think that was the appeal to me. I was just like, yeah, let's do something useful that puts us on the same playing field, sort of. Even not really, but almost sort of. Yeah.
And what rank were you?
So like the Krav Maga organization I'm in is called KMG. So we have like three different main levels. There's the practitioner, and then there's the graduate, and then there's the expert, and then in each of it there's 5 levels. So I got to about graduate 5, which is the last level before expert. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh dear. and yeah. So that. I have to say though, I've not kept up with my workout regime at all. So I might be flabby again.
Have you ever thought about taking up something? So I understand the appeal of the external competition, fighting and sparring and all those things. Like I understand that appeal. Have you ever thought about getting into something that's more internally motivated, such as running and...
Nope.
No? Never.
I mean, like I've tried running. I've tried. It's just every single time I do, it's just so freaking boring. Like I hate it when people tell me like, I love running. When I go running, it clears my mind and like it just feels great. And I'm like, fuck you. Running sucks. The whole time I'm running, I'm just like, why am I doing this? I hate this. Am I there yet? Oh my god, this is terrible. And like I've never gotten to a Zen mode. And I'm like, I don't understand this. Like it's just shit the whole way.
You know what's interesting is I didn't understand the essence of the Zen mode in running until I started running, and I took it up as a discipline earlier this year. And for the first couple months, I was kind of thinking like that. I was like, why? Like, what is the appeal of this? Why do people like doing this, right? And now I run over 200 kilometers a month.
I mean, yay for you.
but I guess what the point that I'm trying to make here is like there is that point, and I think this is kind of like a metaphor of just like life in general. There's that point where you're like, you want to give up, and we can relate this back to the process of being an artist, right? There's so many factors, whether it's in your brain internally or externally, and you're just like, fuck this, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. And then there's that point of nirvana where you're like, oh, this is actually kind of good. I like this. And then you push yourself more and more. So I don't know. Like, I understand the external factors of the competitiveness because I'm very competitive. But yeah, I don't know. It's just,
No,
I don't know
I mean,
what, you know.
I get it. I 100% understand what you're talking about. But I think for me, I mean, I think for everybody, there's you can't be 100% in everything you do, right? So you kind of choose. And like, you know, I tried skipping, I tried running, I tried swimming, and it's a lot of this that are more, you know, solo kind of exercises, and I, you know, I've hated them all. Like,
Yeah.
and like, you know, I got to a I got to a stage on skipping where I could do tricks and stuff. You know, it wasn't terrible, but like it was still a bit like, this is not very fun. So, but I think it's also part that like I don't know. I've never been good at the solo stuff. I've never been good at the reflecting. You know, I feel like some people, they are very good at like taking time to yourself. You know, you sit, you just think. You know, you think and you reflect. And for me, like I've never been able to do that. Like you know how people go to a nice view, they're like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and enjoy the view, and I'm the sort that I'm like, I'm there, I see the view, let's go. You know, it's beautiful, but let's go.
Yeah, I understand both trends of mine for sure.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, I see it. Like, it's beautiful now. It's beautiful tomorrow. Let's go. You know, I get
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think for me, it's like there's everybody has a limited amount of energy, right? And you can't be 100% in everything. So you kind of have to choose like which things that you want to put in your energy to. So like I remember there
Yeah.
was a period of time where I tried running. Like I would I would try running 10K. And then I decided like, nope, this is not it for me. Nope. And then I stopped.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
just choosing what you feel like it fits your personality, fits your style. And I mean, like, I feel like everybody should try and do something that they have to push hard for, right? And put in the time and effort that majority of people won't. But you can't do that for everything. So you kind of just pick and choose which you think is best for you. So yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, cool. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for riffing with me a bit. It was fun.
No, thank you for having me. Like, I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the different, you know, rabbit holes we went into. So this was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll talk to you later, and it was good talking to you.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Okay, bye. That was that. Maybe we'll just bleed it out. Maybe we'll just bleed it out with us laughing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fine. It's the end of the episode. Yeah. All right. Music for the podcast is by Rarebit, aka Justin Dosher Hopkins. Creative producer is Noah Wainwright. YouTube and creative support is by Tyler Scully. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next time.